In this video, we'll talk about the presidency of Herbert Hoover as well as the great stock market crash of 1929. Hoover was elected right after Coolidge's presidency, and it was a sign that the American public was happy with the apparent economic prosperity that was going on under the Republican Party. However, in October of 1929, the stock market plummeted and millions of stockholders lost their money. This was known as Black Tuesday. What were the causes of this crash? You can see here that actually the setup for this had been going on for several years. There's this gradual increase in the Dow up to 1929 when suddenly you see those spikes where it's going down shortly. And then you see a short recovery and then down again. So it continues in this pattern all the way until 1932 when it hits rock bottom. And then there's a very slow, gradual increase. You can see it doesn't go back up really until the 1950s. There are several reasons that the Great Depression occurred. And as I said earlier, historians don't always agree on the exact causes, but they know about some of the contributing factors. One was high tariffs and war debts. The other was easy credit. People had no trouble borrowing money to buy the things that they wanted. This meant that they owed money that they couldn't always pay back. A third reason was the speculation and buying on margin in the stock market. So people borrowing money to buy stock that they expect to increase. What happens when that stock doesn't increase and it loses values is that both the seller and the buyer lose money. Also, in the farming industry, overproduction caused a series of crises and panics for farmers. This poverty that's going on in the agricultural sector, in contrast to the prosperity of the urban sector, shows the uneven distribution of wealth in the United States. Also, we see almost 5,000 banks collapse in a series of bank panics or runs on the bank. When the U.S. goes into a depression, this ends up affecting the rest of the entire world. And in this little graph you can see how. So the U.S.'s profits plummet. Okay, that's at the top. Because profits plummet, U.S. investors have no money to invest abroad in Europe and whatnot. Therefore, Europeans cannot pay off their war debts. Because Europeans can't pay off their war debts, European production plummets. There's no money in the European market. And Europeans cannot afford to purchase American goods. So that in turn comes all the way back around to the fact that the U.S. economy is hurt by Europeans not being able to purchase American goods. The Great Depression lasted from 1929 to 1940, when the U.S. economy was in a severe decline. Millions of Americans lost their jobs, money, and many even became homeless. Businesses and banks went bankrupt nationwide. However, Hoover did little to intervene. Again, because he was a conservative and had laissez-faire policies, he thought that the economy would eventually fix itself. And he believed in this idea of rugged individualism. Eventually, he was forced to take some small steps to intervene, such as pass the Hawley-Smoot tariff, which raised prices on European goods. So it made it so that people were more likely to purchase American goods. However, what happened was European countries then raised taxes on American goods. Rugged individualism is Hoover's belief that it is the role of the individual to take care of themselves and their families. It's not the government's role to take care of the citizens of the United States. Okay? He does not feel that individuals should turn to the government for help, even in times of crises. This doesn't work out so well for Hoover, and he takes a lot of the blame for the Great Depression, even though, as I explained earlier, lots of things in the 1920s set our country up for a Great Depression. In the next presentation, we'll talk about the effects of this depression on the people of the United States.